Hello and good Erev Shabbos. I hope that telephone ringtone did not disturb your introduction and preparation for our weekly sermonette and study. But we're here, and those watching on Facebook and YouTube, if you can just check in and let me know that the sound is good and clear, we'll be ready to roll. So today is the day after Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was a beautiful day, I'm sure, although it was very different in everybody's home. But however it was celebrated, I'm sure I'm confident that it was very meaningful. But now the question is, we're the day after. What happens? We spent the day offering thanks, reflecting on a very important historical date in our national history, but hopefully applying it to our own lives and where we are able to present our own thanks to the people that are very clear to us. And what happens? Thanksgiving is barely over, and boom, shopping, Black Friday, even last night, before midnight, everybody's looking for the deals and shopping and what kind of deals are you going to get and how much are you going to be able to spend and what's going to be cheaper. We don't even have a time to absorb the message of Thanksgiving. The day after should possibly be a time that we reflect more on this great quality of giving thanks. So let me just check in. I see the messages are coming in. Good. So here's my question. What do we do the day after Thanksgiving? And of course, as we always mention, that in the timeless stories of our Torah are such timely messages on what are we supposed to do the day after Thanksgiving during a pandemic. Now, of course, it doesn't say those words the day after Thanksgiving in a pandemic, but it talks about offering gratitude and it talks about challenging times. And it begins in the very beginning of our portion, the portion of Vayetze. Vayetze talks about Jacob, the third of our patriarchs, who's beginning his journey to build the nation of the Jewish people. Abraham had Isaac, Isaac had Jacob, but Jacob was the one who gave birth to the 12 tribes that later became the Jewish people of all from whom we have all descended. And you can imagine, as we mentioned last time, that Jacob is now alone. He left his parents' home. There's this dispute with his only brother, and he had to run away. And that was pre-internet days, pre-mail days. There was no communication at all, practically. Well, you're gone, you're gone. And here Jacob, as mature as he was, is traveling on his own to a distant land that he was never aware of. And the Torah begins with that setting. Vayetze Yaakov meBe'er Sheva. Yaakov leaves Be'er Sheva, Vayelech Harana, and he goes to Haran. He's on his journey, a journey alone, a journey to a distant place. And this kind of becomes the pathway that we are on. As Jews, we are a minority, and even within our own Jewish people, those connected to their spiritual roots are even a greater minority. And many times in our spiritual journey, we find ourselves alone. What do we do? How do we handle that fear? How do we handle that loneliness? So this is the story of our journeys. What does Jacob do? Jacob comes to the place, it says, Vayifka b'makom, doesn't say which place. Vayalen, it's getting dark. He doesn't travel at night, and he wants to go to sleep. He lays down, and he has this incredible vision, incredible dream. A dream of a ladder that ascends from earth and touches the heaven. And the Torah continues. And on this ladder, there are angels going up and angels coming down. And in this dream, God promises him of greatness, of a great future. That although you are a single individual in a small God-forsaken place, you will grow into a large nation. Jacob awakes and he says, wow, Achain, indeed, this is not a God-forsaken place. God is even in this place. And he goes on and makes a promise with God, excuse me, that if in fact all this will be successful, he will tithe of all the wealth that he will give, that he will receive, he will tithe back. And here we have an incredible interaction between the founder of our people, the DNA of our Jewish spiritual experience. Jacob is alone in a space, in a place in the world that no one knows, and he has this interaction with the Almighty God during a dream. This vision of a ladder and angels going up and angels coming down is critical in our understanding. How do we deal with our challenging times when we are alone, when we feel loneliness? And what must the after effect be? This dream of angels going up and down is specific, because typically, if angels are in heaven, should angels be going down and then up? Where did the angels that are down going up to heaven? So commentaries explain that angels that were escorting Jacob in Israel, in the Holy Land, were now going off their duty, so they were going up, and new angels would be coming down. But there's a deeper message to this. And the deeper message is that when you are alone, in a small, limited place in this world, and you feel disconnected, and you feel maybe even fearful of this loneliness, envision the ladder, that in fact you are never alone. You're never in a little small place. There's a ladder that connects you to heaven, to something greater, something more powerful than yourself. In your own personal life, you're an individual with a very limited capacity in a very finite space, but you're connected to a powerful force that is beyond space, is beyond limitation. And that is the engine that drives your life. We must never see ourselves as one little person in one little part of the world. What can I do? No. You're an individual in a particular part in the world, placed there by God with a lot that you can do. But you have to lift yourself up. You have to climb the ladder a little bit above your own perception of your own finite ability to be able to understand that power. But there's a more important message, that it's not enough just to rise yourself up and to lift yourself away from your limitation. Then you get stuck in a reality that is not real. You must always bring that back down. Take that great inspiration and realize that that greatness is not a greatness in heaven. It's a greatness that you bring back into the life, giving you inspiration and motivation to do the greater things that you may feel you're incapable of doing. And that's, in fact, what Jacob says. Yesh Elokim b'makom. When he wakes up, he realizes this isn't just a little place in the planet. This is a little part of a greater picture. And I'm a player in that picture. And that gives Jacob the ability to move forward. We cannot allow spiritual and inspirational moments to be fleeting and to remain somewhere on top of the ladder in heaven. We must always bring those emotions back down. We must always do something with these emotions so that they become active ingredients to great productivity in the finite lives that we have, but with the ladder in the earth, but connected to the great resource of energy called God. When we're able to get ourselves out of that moment that we're in, into the bigger picture, incredible things can happen. And in fact, that's what happens when Jacob thanks God at the end. He says, I'm not just going to say thank you. I'm going to actually make it part of what it is that I'm doing. I'm not just going to say thank you, God, for giving me my wealth. I'm going to take a part of that wealth and tithe it and give it and use it for something that is of greater purpose and greater value. See, when we talk about Thanksgiving, it's not just a day of the year. Thanksgiving is not just a moment in time. We need to take the ideas of thankfulness and gratitude that we've gone through the last 24 hours and spoken about and make it a part of your life. Make it something that is your perspective of seeing the greater things. When you're on that ladder of a great inspiring Thanksgiving, bring it down and make sure that becomes a value that you live with, not yesterday, but today and hopefully every day. In fact, in Jewish tradition, every morning we begin with a prayer. modeh ani lefanecha, offering gratitude for not what we've gotten in the past, but for the present day that we're having. How can you offer gratitude if you don't even know what the day is like? But that's the point. Gratitude is ingrained in everything that we do. And if you start a day with gratitude just for waking up in the morning, you will find gratitude in even the most challenging of times and situations that may come in the coming days. So see, thank you is not just something you say after you receive something. Gratitude and thankfulness is by getting the ability to do something. And when you approach it with that attitude, you will find a lot to be thankful, even though it may appear superficially that it's a small thing in a small space. I'd like to conclude with a very moving story and an email I just received a few hours ago that brings this message home. This is a story of a fellow doctor. His name is Dr. Til Nir. He's a doctor in a southern town in Israel, in Kiryat Malachi, and he's an observant Jew, but he doesn't come from an observant family. In fact, he shares this story that his mother shared with him one time when he was a younger child. His mother was a survivor of the Holocaust. His mother grew up in Belgium, in pre-war Belgium. But like every place in Europe, pre-war was pre-war until the onset of World War II in Nazi Germany. And his parents, like every other parent, Nir's parents, were affected and impacted by, just check, I see something's off. Okay, impacted by the horrors of the Holocaust. When Til's mom grew up as a child, she and her parents would dread the day that they would be taken away. And in fact, that day came. And Til's grandfather and grandmother and all the children of Til's mother's family were taken to the camps. Til's mom was blonde, blue-eyed, so she was able to escape, and her parents prior to this put her up in a non-Jewish home to take care of her during the war. Unfortunately, the family that adopted Til's mom were not the nicest of people. They abused her, they made her work hard, they made her feel terrible. They really humiliated her. And it was a terrible life that she was growing up. Although she was saved from the horrors of the Holocaust, she was under the clutches of very abusive adopted parents. Every night, she would go to bed crying. One day, she decided, I'm going to pray to God, and I'm going to make a deal with Hashem, with God, that if I get out of this alive, and if I can meet my family again, I will say the Shema every night. And every night she tells her son, I said the Shema very quietly. Although I had a very rough day, I would say the Shema to God, hoping that he would keep his deal. As the war went by, and I was saying Shema every night, finally the war was over. And unfortunately, I was not united with my parents. The only relative I was able to unite with was an aunt. And I was very angry. I was very upset, she tells her son. I kept my deal through the hardest of times. What happened to God's part of the deal? And at that moment, she was decided that she will not say Shema anymore because her family was not returned to her. And she will not observe and distance herself from observance of religion. And when she was able to make it to Israel, she joined the most secular of the kibbutzim, where she was able to live with other Jewish people, but without God and without religion. She was so angry. Well, obviously, she grew up, she had a child, and this Dr. Nir Til became observant. And he became observant, and maybe a little very observant, and he had a large family. He had a large family with 8 kids, 4 boys and 4 girls. And each of his children were named after one of the family members that perished during the Holocaust. One day, Dr. Til Nir is bringing his family to visit his mom in this kibbutz, and her table is very small. They couldn't all fit in to her dining room. So his mom uses the room in the kibbutz. Kibbutz is a public place, and she has a bigger table. And she says, look, Ma. In Hebrew, he said, look, Ma, you prayed that God should return your family. Look, here is your family. Each one of these children is named after someone in your family. So although it didn't come back the way you would have liked, but now, many years later, your family is with you. And with that, she bursts out in a cry and hugs her son and says, today I see God did answer my prayer. And the story continues that when she got older and she was on her deathbed, her son wasn't there at the time, but they called him that her blood pressure was going down and she should really come. He should come quickly. He couldn't make it on time, but he asked, tell me, is anybody there near her? And there was a lady there near his mom that was able to say the Shema with her. He says, do me a favor. For so many years, my mom stopped saying the Shema. Please say it with her. And as this woman is saying Shema with the dying mom, she, the mother, just with all the last energy, screams out, Shema, Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. And with that, her soul was returned to the Maker. Very powerful story. This is a woman who was alone in the world, without her family, but with her ability to rise and climb the ladder and look a little bit beyond the finite view and see the bigger picture, she was able to see that, in fact, God has restored her family to her. This is the power of faith. This is the power that the Torah is trying to teach us on the very first journey when our patriarch was alone. That sometimes you have to climb the ladder, but remember to come back down with the inspiration that although you are a finite person in a finite space at a finite period of time, you're truly not. You're connected to the infinite resource of all of time, of all space and all energy, bringing you here at this specific time to do incredible, great things. The more we can climb the ladder a little bit above our finiteness and bring that energy back, the greater we will be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. That's the story. I had a very touching email this afternoon from an individual who expressed herself as follows. I can't wait till we get back to semi-normal. I promise that I will remember the lessons that I've learned. I hope others will. And that is so true. We are now in a very challenging time, and we are all coming to terms with certain realities that perhaps we overlooked before now. We're creating our own inspirational moment. Let's learn from our father Jacob, not to make that fleeting. When we're in a clearer state of perspective of purpose of life, of what's truly meaningful to us, let's not just allow it to fly away, but let's bring it back down that ladder and make gratitude not something we say, but something we do, and something that becomes ingrained in everything of our lives. As Jacob did not just say thank you when he came down that ladder, Jacob incorporated in his life. Let yesterday's Thanksgiving experience, when we reflected on the things that we're thankful about, become part of who we are, part of what we are, but most importantly, generate inspiration to become part of doing what we are truly capable of doing beyond our finite imagination of what we think we do. Then you won't only have a good Shabbos, you won't only have a meaningful Thanksgiving, you will be living a life in tune with true greatness that doesn't just shine upon you, but true greatness that shines through you. So I want to take this opportunity to wish all my good friends a good Shabbos. And as we always do at the end of these sessions, if anybody that's listening would like to wish good Shabbos to others that are listening, I'll be able to post your comments on the screen just like that. Josh, good Shabbos to you. And And as we're waiting for Anita, good Shabbos to you as well. And as we're doing that, let me just remind you of our different websites that we have that you can always see the current and past recordings of our sessions on jewishcenter.info/Rabbi Shem Tov. And Hanukkah is coming up. We have a lot of events that are already planned, a lot of events that are still going to be posted. Just keep in tune at jewishcenter.info/Hanukkah events, and you'll be updated with everything that's going on. But for now, let's see if there are any new messages. Wishing good Shabbos. Arlene, here you are. Arlene, Howard, good Shabbos, everyone. Daniel Jacob, nice name, Daniel Jacob. Good Shabbos to you as well. Ellie, good Shabbos from our house to yours. Amen, and to the house of all of the Jewish people. Sophia, good Shabbos from Sophia and Sasha Tamarkin. Claire, good Shabbos to you. Here we have Elena. Thank you. Good Shabbos to everyone. And as we are, looks like done with the good Shabbos greetings, let me say good Shabbos on behalf of, let me get that off. On behalf of, here we have another one. Good Shabbos, Irene. Irene, good Shabbos to you. And on behalf of Miriam, my entire family, my entire mishpacha, and to your family, good Shabbos, a meaningful Shabbos. Let's not only be grateful for everything that we have until now, but let gratitude become part of everything we do from now. Good